Hello there everyone, this is Mark 3 and welcome back to Dyson Sphere Program second launch, where as you can see the Dyson Swarm deficiency has been fixed. So hooray for that. Hello sun, emerging from behind the gas giant, though unfortunately we are about to pass across into the night side of this world, so yeah, it's about to go bye-bye over the horizon once again. But as you can see, things have advanced a little bit in terms of the Dyson Sphere. Not because of any structural elements going in, but because, well, I was rebuilding the satellite swarm, so any anchor points, of course, got their satellites. So, yeah. That's why the swarm looks a bit more... Sorry, the sphere looks a bit more developed than last time. Though, as you can see, my homeworld has had a slight change as well, which we are about to enable, which is I have girdled the planet with a small number of satellite launchers. A very small number of satellite launchers. Only a 500? I want to say somewhere around 500 or so. But yeah. So that's that. That's going to help keep the swarm up, and I also set all the swarms to a single plane as well, so that's why the other two axes have disappeared. But that's that. Let's get this thing fired up, because I wanted to fire this thing up on screen. So set you to that. I want you to import let's maintain a 4,000 stock, that should be decent. Local demand and remote demand for all of that. And then that'll feed straight into the massive belt of Gauss launchers, which run all the way around the planet. And it was a bit of a job to install it all, I must admit. But hey, it should make sure we don't run into another swarm dropout. At least until we run out of satellites completely. Though that said, there is another problem, which is that this world does not have the power capacity to feed this system, which is a slight shame. So I'm going to fix this in the obvious way by deleting some ray receivers. No, don't worry. I have a reason for this. And the reason is another one of those little achievements. Perfect. Pop. There's an achievement to place and ignite artificial stars at both poles of your starting planet. So I figure, why not? Let's do it. Now this thing runs on antimatter fuel, so I'll need to get a transport link in to at least draw from that. Let's pop it, I guess, there, that'll do. You want to maintain antimatter fuel rods, just a very small amount, and just demand it. Get some massive shipment, so this thing will be fed for quite a while. And then this will be my first ignition of a artificial star as well. So, you know, I kind of miss the fact that I have not been decorating the worlds with like all these different patterns and things, but the problem is a world is a big place. And by the way, that sound stutter from these things, that is actually a constant thing, so it's not because of a problem. Okay, you need an inserter, I think. You do. Pop. So there we go. And as soon as that arrives from Kurat Miner, ta-da! Power output of 17.3 gigawatts, so that's massive actually. That is a serious piece of kit. As soon as the autosave finishes. 17.3 gigawatts, jeez. How's the power supply? 17.3 gigawatts, the entire generating capacity is okay. This thing is alright. But you know what, let's do the same thing. Let's go ahead and... Can I install a proliferator under here? No, I can't. Never mind, I'll just... Well, actually I can just there. Because why not? So let's just install a proliferator over here. And I'll do the same at the other pole. And then we've got a little construction project to do on this world as well, which I'll tell you about in a few moments after I skip installing the other artificial star. I want to make sure you've got some proliferators. Don't need much. Just demand it. And of course nothing turns up because, well, that's what the project is. But yeah, artificial star. Produces 90 megawatts of power, which is still nothing to sneeze at. 90 megawatts, 900. Yeah, that's a decent amount. Okay, right, I'll go and install the other star at the other pole. But, ooh, that's something we need to see. Let the swarm grow. The stream of satellites going out. Oh, glorious. The question is, if it's importing enough? So the question is, kinda? Let's boost that to like 5,000 to get an extra vessel involved. That should do the trick. Anyway, time-lapse. Time-lapse, time-skip. You know what I mean. Another star is born, lo and behold. Okay, that is working, not bad at all. The barrage of satellites continues. The Dyson swarm is taking a massive leap in terms of its number of satellites. 87,000 satellites currently in orbit and climbing. And it's producing 8.7 gigawatts. Not bad, not bad. I mean, 8.7, this entire thing likes like 1.6 for this planet. Admittedly, Corrupt Miner needs more, but, you know. Anyway, moving on. The project is going to be sited here. Around here. Yep, so let's fly over that way. And that is the fact that I need a new proliferator blueprint. So I'm going to put one of those down, and in the name of simplicity, I'm going to make this a speed boosted one rather than a bonus production one. Because I'll be honest, the one I built on Corrupt Miner is actually a little bit flawed. It doesn't work properly. It overproduces some stuff. So let's just keep the numbers nice and simple for this speed booster one. Now, why do I mention this? I mentioned this because I actually got asked on Discord if I wouldn't mind sharing some of my blueprints from this series. Bapple said that they struggle to make factories, and they were wondering if I would be willing to share mine. And I'd say, yeah, I'm quite willing. I'm populating my folder, and I'll share that when I can. So, get rid of those. Bye-bye. Yes, I just littered the environment. Coal, diamond, and nanotubes. We do have enough. The problem is we just don't have the manufacturing capacity for it. But regardless, all of these are 2 inputs, so a compact 2-input start will be enough. Which is of course in my default set, but if we go in second launch, as you can see, I've been slowly building up my library. It's going quite well actually. Compact start, compact start. Where is it? There it is. And I'm building it down here because I want to get it as close as possible to the narrow point as far as the tropic dividers are concerned. Because if you do that, then it means you'll get a blueprint which should fit just about anywhere. And that's actually a problem with some of the existing blueprints. It's like they don't quite fit everywhere possible because they were built more like more towards the equator, and they literally have collision issues if they are built towards one of these tropic divider lines. So that is something to watch out for with these things. Just paint that over. Okay, and let's get started with this. There was actually a couple of facts that I wanted to share in the last episode. It's just unfortunately my microphone was turned off at the time, so it didn't get through. And first one is, this game has not yet cured me of my optimism. So I always think, oh, it's going to be really quick, and then I spend like hours putting down a factory or something. So it's just like, At least it shows I'm involved in the game, right? So there is that. Second thing is, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but if I did, I forgot it. And that is, in the research, if you upgrade the logistics vessel engines over here, it says it boosts navigation speed, which is a stat here, but it actually increases warp speed as well. So I was wondering about the warp speed of my logistics ships, but that does actually happen to improve as you boost the engines. That's okay. But in here is also another thing I want to share, which is meta research, which doesn't help me much at the moment because I've already got most of the colours sorted out. But meta research, a portion of any research you produce in your laboratories gets added to the metadata here, and then that can be used in a separate playthrough to purchase research upgrades. So you can actually use pre-stored data to buy advances, and that's something that came in with the last update to Dyson Sphere program. So that's kind of nice. Anyway, let's move on. We've got the starting thing, we've got the thing over here. This thing, of course, is not going to work quite the way it's intended, so I need to modify this. Sometimes you need to modify designs a little bit. I'm going to delete this line here. Just get rid of that. And this should be set to line number 2, like so. Jolly good. That's going to output from... That's going to be slot 1, actually. Because this is going to be the final output. Slot 1. Remote and local supply. Jolly good. That's all configured properly. Drop my ships in. Bish bash bosh. Job's good. Part of the fact that this blueprint lacks a power pole next to its spaceport. I keep forgetting, and then I go surprised and it's like, oh, why is it missing that? Oh, right. So yeah, that's another reason why I'm not put out any kind of folder yet with my blueprints, because they're full of little errors like that, and I kind of want to try and nail them down to blueprints that I know are good. So, you know, trying to do that. Anyway, do that. Speed production, which is going to add its own set of difficulties to this, I must admit, but that's okay. Speed production, yes. Speed production, yes. Okay, so with blue tier, that will be a doubling of speed production. So basically any numbers we work out with can be cut in half. But this is how I work it out. For all of these blueprints, I've been working it based on the densest resource, either input or output. And I've been basing it... Oh, we don't need this extra line here either. Go away. And then the rest of it scales to that. So consistently there will be like one full belt's worth of either input or output, and that affects how quickly it does things by itself. But let's crunch the numbers here. So, to produce one blue, we need 2 green, and so that's the highest number there. Belt does 30, divide by 2, 15, but it takes 2 seconds, which puts it back up to 30. Now, complicating factor. These machines run at 150%. So 30 drops to 20, because that's a third off. Jolly good. And then 20, because we're doubling production speed when this thing is fully proliferated and running flat out, drops to 10, which is the size of this starting block, actually. Interesting. So that drops to 10 straight off the bat. I need to relay part of this, but that is very convenient. Very, very convenient. As soon as another autosave finishes, come on, autosave, go away, go away, go away, go on. The sooner I get this done, the sooner I can show another time lapse where we will hopefully finish that thing that's over the horizon over there. Yeah. Okay, moving on. Okay, because the tropic lines, of course, are slightly distorting things at this level because of how dense it is. This is why ideally you want to actually be building it like at the upper or lower edge of like the central tropic zone, because there's not a severe distortion there. So I just can't click and drag the top row of those, but I think I can just do it fine on this one. No, this one? Yeah, so I can click and drag those two. I have to do the other ones manually. But yeah, this is just me modifying the existing blueprint to suit my needs at this point, so I will go ahead and skip and be back in a second. Okay, so here is where one of the flaws starts to creep in. So, as we know, we need 2 green in 2 seconds. Does this produce 1 green in 1 second? It does. Never mind. That's just me getting confused slightly. So you got to try and keep on top of the numbers. So next bank of this is the green proliferator set, which will produce green from 2 yellow and 1 diamond. So same math applies as proliferator, except for the fact, of course, that it's like 2 in 1 second instead of 2 in 2 seconds. So 30 divided by 2 is 15, times 1 is 15, minus the third is 10, cut in half is 5. Yeah, so we need 5 greens to match the 10 here, as it turns out. Let's go ahead and get these installed. You are not making blue, you are making green. Boop. And because as I move across here, I'm just going to make sure to keep it in line with the existing grid. With, of course, a 1 block separator as is my custom, just so it's a bit more distinct and you can see where things are. And then I'll get this installed, and I'll also have to reroute this oil line that's wandering past the area as well. But that should be all the greens we need, speed boosted, to keep up with all these blues. Not too shabby. Not too shabby. Well, to be honest, I forgot that my microphone was off, so yay! Sorry, I mean, quote-unquote, technical difficulties, folks. Yeah, that. So, I was kind of nervous when I got the first line built up and rolling, because it's like, I hope I've done the numbers right. If I haven't, then I've just wasted a whole bunch of time trying to get the line working. But it turned out I was actually doing alright, and I got the numbers pretty much balanced. So as you can see, there's lots and lots of proliferation going along. It's all backed up because it's actually pretty effective at doing what it does, with lots and lots of spare proliferators. And for good measure, I built a second one. Because why have 1 when you can have 2 at twice the price? Yay, capitalism. Well, I guess that's what it is. But yeah, this speed accelerated version with the proliferators is actually pretty darn effective. And just to show that I did it, it is right here, stashed away in my blueprint book for 10 coders, 1,500 odd belts, 120 assemblers, 28 stackers of all things, and a whole bunch of other bits and pieces. You too can have your own proliferator plant as soon as I share the blueprints. Coming soon, TM. Iron Mark 3 second launch blueprints. Yes. So as you can see, I was working quite hard to make sure I got everything stacked up properly to where I wanted it. And honestly, as a space-saving measure, I do a lot of this, just ramming conveyor belts into each other, rather than using like a splitter for properly balancing the intake. So yeah, there is that. But it works. It does what it's meant to, and the ratio seems to be correct. So it's rolling pretty darn hard, doing what it wants to do, which is proliferating literally everything. It works. Anyway, moving on. And that segment will be less than the previous one, because I think I rambled on some more about some other stuff, but hey ho, what can you do? Let's go over there to the other world, which is Castle 1, our lava world, where, if you remember, we built that massive rocket launch facility last time. Oh, I remembered a random fact that I didn't share. Did you know that a gas giant takes 40 gas extractors? Yes. To completely extract from a gas giant, you need 40 gas extractors. And then that's all it takes. The more you know. Anyway, moving on. The facility's up. Admittedly, before I realised my microphone was off, I did launch a couple of salvos of structural members, but it doesn't seem to have been drawing from the Dyson swarm, so it looks like no new nodes were constructed. It just went into building some more pathways. So no big loss there. But here we go, you get to see the surprise all over again. Ouch. As I faceplant into the dirt. Landing is a very efficient deal. There it is. So, here's this little thing. Do you notice anything different about this? Like, have a look at the map and you'll probably be able to see. Yeah. Okay. So, between last episode and this one, I reconnected the lines because I decided, you know what, that's an easy way to do this. And to keep it from operating, I disconnected the power. But this is a launch facility which is about 60 to 65% larger than it was previously, just for extra accelerated Dyson sphere erection. Yes, we must make sure that Dyson sphere is up as quickly as possible. But we click the power in, we let it go, do its thing. I'm very nervously checking to make sure my microphone is actually on this time, and it is. But, yep, it thinks about it some more, the planet glows blue, and voila! A massive salvo of components. And look at them fly! Oh yeah, this is going to help things speed up. We've got many, many more sats, we've got many, many more launchers, we've got all sorts of doodads. We have 234,000 sats in orbit at the moment, and some of them are being pulled now, it seems. You didn't see that. I'm going to go back and edit that out. Just going to say, you didn't see that. Because I didn't want to spoil what this thing is going to be, so that's why part of the reason I've been doing the time-lapse the way I have been. I didn't want to spoil it and let you guys see what the final thing is, so I've been deliberately trying to avoid the blueprint. I'm going to have to go back through this whole video and edit out any times I show that, aren't I? Because of times I check the Dyson's sphere thing. Oh, damn it. Oh well. But that's okay. You guys get to see it going up in all its glory in the time-lapse, and you will see the abomination I created soon enough. But until then, we will have the time-lapse now. Fun fact, the time-lapse is times 36, because my rendering software can do up to a times 6 compression, so I rendered it, and then compressed it again for a times 36. The more you know.
I don't understand. What do you want? You're just a machine. You're just a machine.
I think I'm going to leave the time-lapse there because really, for a while now, all it's been doing is scooping up solar sails and doing the dance to get it all sorted. As you can see, the sails just flying past, but you can see the scale of this thing as well. Massive hole there. Ignore that. Not structurally important, that, because, well, the structural component rocket stopped about halfway through that time lapse, honestly. So yeah, we got them all out, and it's been gathering sails ever since. But you can also see what I did with the design. I was trying to go for something a bit interesting rather than an actual proper sphere, and I went with something kind of complex as well. Now, I'm going to go back and delete these things, as I said, but now let's actually show you what I've got here. We've got a 6-layer Dyson shell, and as you can see, it's like built with varying parts, and some of them are also operating in the opposite rotation, though they all are spinning around a common axis. I will add that. So in theory, this thing will cover every part of the sun when all the plates line up properly. But just to keep it more visually interesting, I did have like a lot of the stuff spinning and rotating around the place on different layers, and the different layers spin at different speeds and all that good stuff. But you can see what's going on here, really. So let's go ahead and show you this. So you can actually hide the Dyson sphere in-game. Click. You gods! The Dyson sphere has disappeared! Oh no! But yeah, you can take it out of the game if you want it to improve performance and all that stuff. But if I take all this, the original layer is, of course, the panels. We started off with these squares in it, and then I built up the edges of it as well. And that's where that one came from. It's also the one that I had trouble with right at the start by accidentally starting to build into these additional sail sections just before the time-lapse in the previous episode. So there is that. Shell number 2 is the next one I added, which is the one where I decided on the overall shape. This one is far enough out to be just within the orbit of the planet we're on, Castle 1. And as you can see, it's like this big, aggressive, spiked containment thing. 6 points, very angular. Though I made sure on each of these things to actually give it structural connection as well, so there is actually structural points which explain why these things hold together. So that's something I tried to maintain on all of the sphere parts. But as you can see, it's mostly these parts in the middle here which are having trouble gathering satellites. So this is the main hold-up, I think, on satellites at this point. By the way, sphere number 3. This one is mostly where I put the caps into it. So polar caps on the star, and a couple of like secondary gathering panels. Very small, dotted around, mostly more for like moving parts than anything else within the actual Dyson sphere. Just to make it look a bit more interesting, really. Though you can see where I've also kept the structural braces going, this time in a north-south configuration, and holding those additional panels in place. Just to help hold it all together. Also, it's slightly curved on there as well. Line number 4, which is pretty tight in. This is because I realised that there were some angles on the star which were not covered. So there's the cap was covering this general area, then the big panels were covering this general area. So I decided to put in a couple of like rings straddling the area. Of course, braced with components and a couple of extra gathering facilities on the satellites there. So these big gathering points here. But this in itself is just a little section here, and also, as you can see, very tightly done in terms of structure. So this place built up really quickly once the structure got into it. Because it's mostly assembly parts, this one. Anyway, hide that one. Layer 5, another big one here. To complement the original layer 1, I wanted to get some more big panels moving in a different position. So let's bring up layer 1 here. So leaving a window through the middle so you can actually get a direct line of sight on the star when all the panels align in the way that allows that. But also has these big things in a counter-rotating arrangement versus the original panels, just like that. Just again, to help give a bit of complexity to it. And then the last panel, number 6, is just, again, adding a bit more solidarity. Basically a Dyson ring rather than a Dyson sphere, with some vertical bracing struts spaced around it, but it's just like this solid ring, basically mirroring the Dyson swarm, as you can see, but giving it a bit more of a solid appearance overall when you've got all of it together. And that is my Dyson sphere, my very first Dyson sphere, I should say. Well, it's not technically a sphere, it's more of a Dyson harvester, I guess. It's something. I guess it's a Dyson sphere, but the thing is the game hasn't popped an achievement saying, hey, guess what, you've done a Dyson sphere, because it's not a full sphere, it's a lot of different layers. So it doesn't really count, but it certainly is a lot more visually complex than a Dyson sphere as well. And yeah, that's what I decided to go with for it. With that though, I think with the length of time that we were watching satellites being scooped up by this thing, we're probably at the end of the episode time as well, so I'm gonna call it there, to be honest. Okay, so yeah, this is 9 Mark 3. Thank you all very much for watching. I hope you guys have been enjoying the show, and we'll catch you all some other time. See you all later. I don't know, I just like seeing more orbital mechanisms in place. That's basically why I built it this way. I can still see the sun when the panels align just right. Ah, yes.